Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well today. In my last video, we discussed all things leaked Invictus ships, but in the comments, I got a ton of questions and thoughts about the Idris, Perseus, and Ironclad. So in this video, I wanted to talk about all the updates we have on these ships, if any of them might make it to Invictus, and if not, when will we get them? Before we get started, if you are enjoying the content, feel free to subscribe. I have memberships open if you want to go the extra mile, and I'll have a link down below for the community Discord. I would absolutely love to have you there. Outside of that, let's get talking about some of the most hyped up ships of 2025. First things first, let's start off with the Drake Ironclad. Now, if we're being completely honest here, and I think some people will enjoy hearing this, I think out of these three ships, this is the one that we are most likely to see. This ship was oddly enough left out of last month's monthly report, which is actually a bit suspicious. We know that they have been working on this ship for some time now, but we really don't know what the progress has been. The last update we have on this ship was from the December/November monthly report. Here it was stated that the ship, along with many other ships, were passing through White Box and Gray Box. Of course, there is no clarification as to which ships were in Gray Box versus White Box, but there is a chance that the Ironclad was further along here than we might have thought initially. Now, this update was quite a few months ago, so at this point, I suppose it is actually quite possible to get the Ironclad this Invictus. One thing that was pointed out in This Week in Star Citizen was this statement around expecting massive ships for Invictus. Now, I don't really see this as something we should pay too much attention to, but I will say that these three ships are pretty massive. Now, I also expect that the Anvil Asgard, which we talked about in the last video, will be quite large. So, again, I don't think we should overthink this statement too much. Though I will say that, again, out of all the three ships we're talking about here today, the Ironclad is the ship I have the most faith that we might actually see. My doubts with the ship really lay in the fact that we just haven't seen it at all in the leaked files for 4.1.1. We have seen basically all of the Invictus ships that seemingly are going to be announced or released this year already in the leaked files. So it's kind of hard to say that the Ironclad is a part of that when we haven't seen it in the files yet. Now, of course, they still do have like roughly 3 weeks left until this event starts. So if they want to shove the Ironclad at the very last minute into the files just so they keep that element of surprise, totally understandable, but it is a little bit hard to believe with just how many leak ships we've already gotten. I'm kind of 50-50 on it right now. I want to stay optimistic about it, but I also just don't want to keep up too much hope, just given the fact that we don't have a ton of evidence on this ship actually releasing. Regardless, I would love to hear your thoughts on the Ironclad. Do you think it's releasing with Drake Defense Con, or do you think it's probably more like an IEE Citizen Con type of release? Regardless, I'm excited for the ship, and I think a lot of people are as well. So I'm looking forward to it. Now, let's talk about something that isn't much of a surprise, but that is the Idris. The Idris is basically flyable completely in game and is currently obtainable through missions in 4.1.1's PTU patch. And I think a lot of people believe we might see this ship for a few reasons. Firstly, this ship has received a few updates to its interior over the past few months, including the last few PTU patches. The ship also has a specific Invictus skin in the 4.1.1 files, and excluding some glitches with the exterior hatches and entrances, the ship feels pretty much complete in game, at least for current development standards. Now, there is just one big issue though, and that's the fact that this ship was said to release when Squadron 42 releases. If we're being honest here, that is the only big piece of evidence that really says we aren't getting this thing quite yet. Outside of that, I do think the speculation has been pretty valid. Now, before we wrap it up with the ship and just call it a day, we do have to consider a few things, a few very CIG things. First things first, when CIG says something, I hate to say it, but you can't really believe it till you see it. One thing is that they stated that the F8C was going to have similar conditions to the Idris, but even then, they released the F8C despite that statement. Some might also not know this part as well, but the RSI Galaxy was actually supposed to come before the Perseus. This was stated at CitizenCon 2023, the same time they actually discussed the Idris releasing with Squadron 42. As we all know at this point, that just simply isn't happening. This is also where they stated that the RSI Galaxy will be capable of base building, and then 1 year later stated it would not be capable. Of course, they have now walked that statement back and they still plan on adding a base building module, but I think I have proven my point. Even though CIG is arguably getting better about saying things that they shouldn't, there is still a chance they walk that initial statement back about the Idris. At this point, I am still generally doubting that we will see the Idris Invictus, but at this point, I wouldn't even be that surprised. For me personally, I think it's just a game of trust when it comes to CIG here. Are they going to follow through with their statement about it releasing with Squadron, or are they going to walk it back similar to how they did with numerous other statements? So, really, it's up to you to decide if you want to trust CIG on their word. Regardless, I would again love to hear your thoughts on this one. Personally, for me, I'm not keeping my hopes up, nor do I really think it's going to release, but given the evidence and just the fact that it basically is release ready, it's really hard to debate, and you just kind of have to trust CIG or not trust them, I suppose. Now, the last ship that we have to talk about here is the one that I am unfortunately the most confident that we will not see at Invictus this year, or at least flyable, that being the RSI Perseus. Given last month's monthly report, we know that the Perseus was last seen in Gray Box. And though that is pretty far along, it is definitely not far along enough to be flyable by Invictus. Now, is there a chance we see the Perseus doing a flyby or maybe sit on display as just the exterior? Yeah, I think there's, a small chance, but I wouldn't bet on it. I think the ship absolutely releases this year near CitizenCon in IE, but I am almost entirely confident we don't see the Perseus this Invictus. I know it's really a bit of a bummer for some players. This is probably the ship that was commented about the most in my last video, whether it was asking about it or just wanting it to be at Invictus this year. Unfortunately, I'm, pretty confident we won't see it. Though Invictus is a very, heavy ship news time, so there is a solid chance we see something about it, or at least we hear about when they want to release it. Last year, they did go ahead and actually announce that they wanted to release the Polaris at IAE at last year's Invictus. So maybe the Perseus will get the same treatment. Maybe we'll see a couple gray box shots of it, and they'll announce that they want it released at IAE this year. Again, nothing really too confident here. I'm kind of just speculating, but trying to stay a little bit optimistic for all you Perseus owners. I know you're excited, and I certainly am as well, even if I don't own this ship. I think it'll be a super cool addition to the verse, but it looks like we'll have to wait a little bit longer. Now, before we hop off here, I did want to just really quickly address two ships that I've seen in my comments the past couple of weeks. The first one being the Zeus Mark II MR. Now, this is my only pledge ship, so I am certainly one of the people that are looking forward to the ship. I'm super excited to see it, but I am telling you right now, unfortunately, we will not see this thing for a while, probably. Unless they decide to go against their word and release it without the tech that's needed to actually use the ship. This ship is waiting bounty hunting beat 2, and as we know, that has not gotten much news at all for a very long time. So, not expecting the Zeus MR anytime soon, unfortunately, but I am incredibly excited for it. Now, the last ship I did want to talk about here is the RSI Apollo. Similar to the Perseus, this thing has gone into gray box in March, and I honestly think we will probably see this thing by the end of the year, just unfortunately not at Invictus. I think the only real thing you need to worry about when it comes to the RSI Apollo is drones. This thing is very drone heavy in the fact that that's kind of what this ship specializes in. It sends out drones to actually pick up bodies and down players and whatnot, and actually brings them back to the ship. Will this ship actually release with that drone functionality? I'm not entirely sure. That's something they're probably going to need to address, and hopefully we can hear about during Invictus launch week. But besides that, it is making some really solid progress, and hopefully we'll be in the verse by the end of the year. Now, that is going to do it for this video. I just wanted to really quickly hop on and address some of the ships that I know you guys have a ton of questions about. Hopefully, that clears up the air a little bit. But again, I would love to hear your thoughts on any of the ships we talked about in this video. Regardless, I really do appreciate you sticking around. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video.